Absolutely.
What's up with the what's up, folks? Welcome to Puny Humans platform. True Victor, I'm your host, and we getting ready to react to this. It says Marvel Wolverine announcement. So we getting a little bit closer to another phase of movies dropping. I am, if you paid attention to the intro, you seen I'm a huge MCU or Marvel in general fan. Huge fan of comic books and just the whole lump of it. So right now we're getting ready to react to, I believe his name is Kevin Feige, and he's getting ready to go into a little bit of detail of what we can expect next for this phase coming up. So let's check it out.
The plans for Wolverine and Deadpool will always be where can we get them and how quickly and how much. We sort of started the whole machine back up again as we figured out what the grand storyline would be. Now we know very much what the grand storyline is leading up to Secret Wars, but also beyond. And you already mentioned one of them, which is X-Men. So a lot of those characters you'll see the culmination of Secret Wars or where we start to gear up in the future post-Secret Wars.
I don't know if y'all know, but it was a number of different studios that owned different characters. So because Disney purchased Fox, that kind of freed up, or it allowed them the freedom, should I say, to use a lot of different characters, X-Men being one of them, because Fox 20th Century owned Deadpool, Spider-Man, X-Men, and a number of other characters. Actually, no, I believe Sony owns Spider-Man, so I take that back, but Sony was leasing Spider-Man to Marvel and allowing them to use that character. But now that Disney has bought, which is, I don't know if y'all know, but Disney owns Marvel, they can use X-Men and pretty much weave them into the whole MCU that we know today, and it'll all become pretty much the same universe. So yeah, I'm excited about that.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Marvel has repeatedly made jokes about how they're going to make Hugh Jackman be Wolverine for the rest of his natural life. But
if you haven't seen Deadpool and Wolverine, you're doing yourself a disservice. Go check it out.
We're actually hearing more of the actual details for what that new contract looks like through the next era of Marvel movies. When he came back as Wolverine for Deadpool and Wolverine, he signed a larger contract for the next couple of years. I'll explain the difference between that and what movies he'd already agreed to come back for on top of Deadpool and Wolverine, and the new contract that they're signing him to, which is way bigger than that for even more movies. They haven't literally locked him down till he's 90, but I wouldn't be surprised if that Ryan Reynolds Deadpool joke winds up becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy.
And trying to look like a superhero and move like an even younger Tom Holland.
If that does wind up happening, you can blame him for that. So if you're brand new to the channel, we're actually doing that giveaway for Captain America Brave New World tickets. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and let me know which other Marvel movies you want to see Hugh Jackman come back for during the X-Men era of Marvel after Secret Wars. If you didn't see that news recently, though, Hugh Jackman has already been working out a newer, bigger contract with Marvel that's going to cover the next 10 years' worth of Marvel movies.
Damn.
It's not quite the same situation as the classic era of Marvel Phase 1 contracts that most of the original Avengers actors had to sign when they first became their characters. Robert Downey Jr. is one of the few exceptions to that, too. His deal is famous for them only signing him to that first Iron Man movie, so when he came back for all the sequels and all the other movies, that's where his famous contract that's got him paid so well started. But all the other Avengers actors had to sign 6-picture deals, which was pretty unheard of for Hollywood at the time. So we're talking about the late 2000s when this is all going down. At the time, Kevin Feige and Marvel wanted to control the creation of the MCU so much, he had such big plans for how Marvel would pan out. They wanted to have the freedom of being able to put actors in whichever movies that they wanted when they wanted to do it. They also didn't want to have to deal with actors dropping out at the last minute from sequels down the road or having to recast everybody in the middle of the lead up to that first Avengers film. Looking at you, Edward Norton, Mark Ruffalo, Terrence Howard, Don Cheadle, you can see that they still had to deal with that a couple times. Typically, when actors signed on for big franchise movies like this, like the Batman movies back in the day, things like that, it was only for trilogies. The 6-movie deal for Marvel at the time was meant to cover 3 Avengers movies plus a trilogy for each of the characters. Most of those original Avengers actors had to re-sign a contract to come back for Avengers Endgame because originally Avengers Infinity War was meant to be a single movie when Kevin Feige was plotting things out way back in the beginning of Marvel Phase 1. They'd only assumed that they'd try to do a trilogy of Avengers movies, but once they actually started to develop Infinity War in the 2010s, they split it into 2 movies, creating the need to sign another deal with everyone to come back for Avengers Endgame. That was why everybody got paid so well for Endgame. People like Chris Hemsworth, who then agreed to come back for a 4th movie after Avengers Endgame, like Thor: Love and Thunder. Other actors who came back for more Marvel movies, like Samuel L. Jackson. People who agreed to come back for the Disney Plus TV shows. All that was brand new stuff they had to sign new contracts for. One of the exceptions to this is Tom Holland with all of his Spider-Man stuff. So he doesn't have a contract with Marvel for all the Spider-Man movies. His contract is actually with Sony, and Sony then signs a deal to share Spider-Man with Marvel.
That's what I was just explaining to y'all.
For the specific movies that you see him in. And because we're talking about Hugh Jackman signing another brand new, bigger deal, Tom Holland literally just did that for the next trilogy of Spider-Man movies and a couple more Avengers movies, basically.
Oh, so
Tom
doing
Holland's
3
last
more?
contract was up after Spider-Man No Way Home. Hugh Jackman's contract to come back for Deadpool and Wolverine was only for Deadpool and Wolverine in Avengers 6 Secret Wars. And then, unlike the other old-school Marvel contracts, the wording on his deal was only that they would do more with the character beyond that. Like, they were just leaving the door open for him to come back more if he wanted to, but not forcing him to come back. Then Deadpool and Wolverine blew up at the box office, became one of the highest-earning comic book movies of all time. Ryan Reynolds made all those jokes that now they're going to force him to come back until he's 90. And right after the movie came out, Kevin Feige was publicly saying that they wanted to get Deadpool and Wolverine back in as many Marvel movies as possible, as fast as possible. Like, stat. Get them in all the movies right now. This is why you've been hearing all the talk of them also coming back for Avengers Doomsday, because that movie is meant to mostly take place inside the MCU, and at the end of Deadpool and Wolverine and Deadpool are still in that main X-Men universe. So if they're going to be in Avengers Doomsday, they either have to have a tag scene in their universe or they have to somehow bring them to the MCU through the TVA or some other means. Marvel really doesn't care about those kinds of details, like they just want to get them in all the movies. So at least on a story level, how they accomplish that isn't that important to them. But this is where we get to this new Wolverine contract that everybody's been talking about the last couple days. The one that's supposed to cover the next 10 years of Marvel movies.
Okay.
Now, we know very much what the grand storyline is leading up to Secret Wars, but also beyond.
It sounds like the report is that Marvel only wants him to continue as his Wolverine here for the next 10 years, and during that time, supposedly they want him to finish a trilogy of Deadpool and Wolverine movies. I think the reason for the 10 years is just because that's a round-sounding number and because of Ryan Reynolds' comments that he was going to wait a long time before trying to make another Deadpool movie, and until then, he just cross over into other people's movies. This is Ryan Reynolds literally talking about that.
If he comes back, it's going to be in a someone else's movie.
No, but seriously though, what does the future hold?
Yeah, Channing Tatum so excited to play Gambit, and I would happily be the fifth banana in his movie or anyone else.
Personally, I think the same idea is true for Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. Like, he would love to come back and do more Marvel, but he doesn't want to come back as much as you would need to for a bunch of solo movies where you're like the main character in most of the scenes.
Right.
It's way easier for these actors to show up for a couple days, guest star, cross over into somebody else's movie, then leave a couple days later, instead of having to spend 6 months of their lives 24/7 trying to make a good movie. Ryan Reynolds has been very public.
See, the whole concept behind that, and I kind of understand it. All these people got families now. Like, when you starting off your career and you doing them solo movies and all that, more than likely, I mean, and there's no monolith to this, but more than likely you are single, or you just in a regular relationship. You probably don't got no kids. But 10, 20 years in, you are happily married, you got kids, you just like, you have no desire to be away from your family for 6 months at a time, a year at a time, shooting no movie. And sometimes that's the amount of time that these movies take. So I definitely get Hugh when he say that, man. Like, or any of them that's so far into their career now. It's like, listen, I didn't work this hard for all of this money to not be able to enjoy it with my family and have to keep coming out here and seeing y'all every, for 6 or 7 month stints or a year, 2 year stints just to shoot a movie that's going to be 2.5 hours. So sometimes less than that. So I get him.
The toll that making Deadpool movies takes on both his mind, his body, and his relationship with his family, which is the main reason why he's waiting so long before even attempting to make another Deadpool solo.
Yo, it's crazy. They just said that. I literally just got done saying that. Hold on. What did they say?
His body and his relationship with his family, which is the main reason why he's waiting so long before even attempting to make another Deadpool solo movie. It's the same situation with Hugh Jackman and Wolverine. Like, the older that he gets, the bigger the toll it takes on his body.
Right.
So it's way easier for him to just cross over, cameo in other people's movies. But this new deal would also have Hugh Jackman showing up in some of these new X-Men based movies that'll happen in the next era of Marvel after Secret Wars. We've been calling it the Mutant Saga. You can call it Marvel Phase 7. Marvel will probably have some more literal terms after Secret Wars is released, like prepare for the next era of Marvel, the Mutant Era. But this would also allow them to pay off bigger teasers for iconic Wolverine moments from the comics that they haven't really done yet in bigger ways or anything but really short bits, like actual Wolverine versus Hulk in a movie.
Ooh.
We've been hearing all these Hulk plans that Marvel has in the next several years through Secret Wars, doing a version of World War Hulks, doing a version of Wolverine versus Hulk. You could do all that in the same movie and just have Hugh Jackman cameo in that movie as his Wolverine, and it just happens to be a World War Hulk movie. Coming back for the next era of Marvel would also allow Hugh Jackman to be involved in something like Avengers versus X-Men when they're...
Listen, it's been a lot of that going around on the internet right now. Just because, everybody knows that MCU is rolling out X-Men. Realistically, see, I don't know if y'all remember this, but back in the comic book lore days, X-Men was God tier. You know what I mean? Like, and the Avengers was kind of like the scrubs for like, they've made these characters as beloved as they are today, because they weren't really that, like, I mean, with the exception of, I would say, Spider-Man, Captain America, and Iron Man. Other than that, the rest of these Avengers characters and just the characters and Hawkeye and Captain Marvel and Ant-Man, they made these characters so beloved because, like I said, X-Men was God tier. So to even see them, like, they would really, the producers, the directors, the writers, they would really have to take, they would have to be very generous to even allow the Avengers to put up a good fight against the X-Men, because realistically, I don't think that they can hold the whistle to them. I'm just being honest. Like, Professor X alone is just like his telepathy. Listen, he'd take them all out. So, and Magneto, you know what I mean? Like, that's been something that I'm definitely seeing a lot of people make a good point of on the internet. Magneto, he controls all and any kind of metals, right? There's not too many people in the MCU that suit doesn't involve metal. The weapons they use don't involve metal. Their makeup of their body doesn't involve metal. So it's just like, it's going to be a good fight to see once we finally get to it. I tell you that much.
To do that down the line, that'll probably take the place of what they would have originally done for Avengers 7. Like, just do it as an X-Men versus Avengers or Avengers versus X-Men movie, whatever you want to title it. Will people be too fatigued by Avengers movies by that time? Should we just bill it as an X-Men movie with the Avengers in it? But at the rate they're developing all the characters, it's going to take them at least 7 to 8 years to get to that movie. Like, we're still talking about Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars and years away from those movies actually releasing. But also on top of this, reportedly the Russos are supposed to be working out a deal to return to direct more Marvel movies in that next era of Marvel,
They're
the
some of the
mutant
best.
saga of Marvel. But that's a totally separate thing from Hugh Jackman agreeing to come back for that era too. Just looking at all the rumors that are out there, I'm less bullish on a Deadpool and Wolverine trilogy. Like, I personally do not think that Ryan Reynolds is going to want to make 2 more Deadpool and Wolverine movies in the next 10 years. I would say if we're lucky, he makes 1 more Deadpool solo movie, and that winds up being Deadpool and Wolverine 2. But they both said that they would love to come back and do more Marvel. So all that other time, like the rest of those 10 years that we're talking about, would be them just showing up in Avengers movies, other X-Men movies that they start doing, other people's movies just in general. Which personally I am totally fine with. Like, I'm totally fine with them introducing a new main MCU Wolverine with a younger, like a totally different actor, and just putting him in most of the big solo movies, and just bringing in Hugh Jackman's Wolverine for the really big stuff. Part of the idea, too, is that Deadpool is going to be
Keep 'em
coming
the
to the
same.
MCU after Secret Wars on a permanent basis. Like, he's over in the X-Men universe right now at the end of Deadpool and Wolverine. Secret Wars is basically going to soft reboot the MCU, and going forward, everybody is basically going to be inside the MCU. And because they're bringing Deadpool from that universe, it makes sense that they'd also try to bring Hugh Jackman's Wolverine to the MCU as well, too. There's still a lot of questions logically about some of these legacy actors that keep coming back and will probably continue to come back for cameo scenes in the future if they're trying to simplify things with just like one main MCU going forward for every.
Listen, this is going to be a very unpopular opinion. I could have gone without Blade being in Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. He's old now, and although you can be old and still look ridiculously good as far as like aging wise, Wesley just doesn't have that. I'm sorry, I don't know if, and no disrespect to him, I don't know if he had gotten sick in the recent years or what, but he doesn't have his youth the way that he was able to hold on to it. So his portrayal of Blade, of course, listen, I was in the theaters when he popped up, so we all went wild. Even me, I was one of them. But then in hindsight, I'm looking like we could have definitely went without that. So they definitely better not be in talks of bringing him back, because I don't really think that's gonna bring too many people out, and I don't really think it's gonna look good. But yeah, that's just my opinion.
After Secret Wars. So we will see how that all works out, but just do not be surprised if you still see legacy actors coming back for cameo scenes way down the road in like 10 plus years. But everyone, let me know in the comments, if Hugh Jackman is going to come back again as Wolverine for like the next 10 years, which other movies do you want to see him cameo in? Like, which X-Men movies should he show up in if he's not going to be the main version of Wolverine in the next like 5 or 6 years? One of the other really easy things that they can do if they're going to keep him coming back until he's 90 is just let him naturally age into the old man Logan from the comics. The version that we saw in Deadpool and Wolverine, they had to put him in old age makeup to age him up for that. So just wait like 15 more years and he can actually look like that without any of the makeup. Would totally love to see an Old Man Logan movie based more on the comics that they just treat as an Elseworlds kind of movie way down the road. Really old version of the Hulk versus a really old version of Wolverine and a really old version of all the other characters. By that time, all the original Avengers actors, all the X-Men actors that could come back for that would also look really old, so it would just fit way more to be more comic book accurate. But you would kind of have to treat it as an Elseworlds type of movie. There's a bunch of big stuff coming up next week. We have new Spider-Man episodes I'll be doing videos for. The Super Bowl will be in a couple more weeks. We'll get a bunch of trailers. Probably going to get that first Fantastic Four trailer too.
Listen,
and we're probably going to get more Daredevil Born Again footage. So be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that. Everybody click here for my Daredevil Born Again trailer video, and click here to learn about all the confirmed actors that are showing up in Avengers Doomsday.
All right, listen. So there you have it. Listen, I'm excited. I'm like really big into the MCU. So, I'm still brushing up on a lot of my knowledge. Still getting into my comic books and trying to cause I was never really super big into reading comic books. So, like a lot of the stuff that I'm learning, I've learned through the movies, and I'm learning that a lot of that stuff isn't 100% accurate to how it played out in the comics. So I'm still kind of catching up with that. But yeah, like my lack of knowledge in the comic books did not take away from how interested I am in the whole universe in general. For some reason, it's just something about Marvel that I've always been into over DC, which is crazy though, because Batman always been my dog. Yeah, there you have it. Marvel Wolverine announcement. This is our first reaction video, so there will be so many more to come. And then, of course, like I said in our introduction video, it'll be a lot of original content coming very, very soon. So y'all stay tuned. And for now, enjoy the rest of y'all night. All right, Puny Humans, we out of here.
Absolutely.